Another 5-hour podcast.
That's right. This big guy, he's a nurse.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none.
We always talk about nonsense.
42.
42, and you had shingles.
Shingles is basically chicken pox for adults.
Oh, that's weird. So where'd you have it? Or do I want to know?
I'm okay with it. If you can handle it, I can. From the midline all the way to my crack.
Wow.
From the very top of the cheek all the way down to the bottom, I want to start running, and I want to get down to an 8.5 minute mile.
Dave running.
Yeah, I know. The sky is falling.
I was going to say, is the apocalypse going?
Hell's freezing over. So I decided to do cardio before lifting.
Ooh, Dave. So were you like, Jenna, I need you to come look at my ass?
It was a good learning experience, I'll tell you. Yes. Good God, poor Jenna.
Do not do it at home.
Do not try that at home.
So are you still running?
No.
Put the majority of your energy for what you're trying to do, and that's lifting, building muscle, because muscle, is the long-term investment.
Yeah.
And cardio is the short-term gratification. So you want to be a police officer?
No. I would say a lot, if not most people in this country, they take for granted what they have because they've never seen what it's like to not have. I mean, it's like a culture shock to them. Anybody gets drunk, they become a specific type of personality.
I'll hit on heavy. I'll be the one that hits on any skirt that moves.
Yeah.
After your sets, you did this?
Yeah. After 10 sets.
Hey, that's crazy.
I have my moments, but that was my PR for hip thrust was 925. I'm like, good God, poor Jenna. It's not a big deal. I put a saddle on him and strap it on, and there we go. Get a little gross for some people. Honestly, this was almost as bad as when I busted my Achilles. You're not fat. Jenna probably yell at me. She's like, don't lose all your pudge.
Don't you dare lose that pudge.
Yeah, like, there's nothing for me to grab onto.
You can get lean, crazy lean, lifting super heavy, doing no cardio. So your game plan coming back to the gym, what is it going to be?
I could be like the anger drunk. But for hormones, like I said, your body has a very specific ratio for hormones. You start messing with. That's why years ago people would say, if you take steroids, it'll shrink your balls. And the longer you're on steroids, the more your body stops making it. And then if you stop steroids, all of a sudden your testosterone levels, because your body's not making any, it's gonna tank, it's gonna bottom out. And then the vast majority of the health problems that we have in this country are because of our diet and our activity level. Our diets are garbage. Honey that's local also can help you with allergies. Yeah, when I was a kid and we were being punished, you couldn't go outside to play. You had to stay inside. You couldn't do anything.
That's what you mean. Yeah,
now,
I was gonna say.
Punishment for kids is to take away their technology and send them outside to play. And if you've ever been on TikTok,
I think everybody, Davis.
I've never been on TikTok. TikTok is raising our children, especially with parents that they want their kids out of their hair, so they give them an iPhone, they give them a tablet.
Go play. Yeah. Nowadays, kids can't even sit down and watch a freaking TV show all the way through without getting sidetracked.
Yeah, they get bored. I read something the other day where children in China, when asked what they want to be when they grow up, it's usually either doctor, lawyer, or astronaut. Kids in America, when they're asked what they want to be when they grow up, they say YouTuber.
Influencer. I think the scariest thing about technology is the fact it is making people think they can be their own god. Because in the Bible, it even says in the end times, people will love themselves more than they love each other. Especially when the creator of AI from Google walked out of Google because he said, I don't want to be any part of where this is going. And
Shawn's been absorbed by the system already. Look out. It's like I mentioned before, technology can be a great thing.
Yeah.
But like everything else that has ever been created in our culture, in our society, in our country, everything we've ever created has been corrupted at some point. Like, this is the only country in the world where you can come here with nothing and you can build your own empire.
Yeah. Dave, do you believe the earth is flat?
The perfect shape of anything, to hold anything, is a sphere. I love asking people this question, and get off topic. But, people...
Dave, the whole podcast is off topic.
I know, right? Because if you focus on yourself, nobody wants to be around somebody who focuses on themselves all the time. And so when you have, two people that are focusing on themselves, trying to have a relationship, it's gonna fall apart. They go through a bad relationship and then they get out of it. They get to another bad relationship and they get out of it. And after so many bad relationships, that is the life, that is the relationship style, that is the mindset that you now have ingrained into your brain. Kind of like, going back to what it says in the Bible, what Jesus said, treat your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. Basically, words matter. And the way that what you say is important, but also what's important is how you say it.
What is happening, guys? Welcome to the season finale. That's right. Dave Florkowski is the season finale of One Warrior Season 2. And also happy holidays. This is going to air the week of Christmas. So welcome, Dave Florkowski. I had you on last season, and it was a really well-received podcast.
Oh, cool.
And people really liked it because we talked for like 3 hours last season.
Well, I think it was actually 5 hours.
Five
Yeah,
hours.
because you had Dawson on, and then you had one of the other guys on with him, and theirs was 3 hours. And they were just kind of like, yeah, we want to see if Dave's podcast is going to be as long as ours. And it was like a 5-hour podcast.
It was long.
We had to do. I think you had to do it in 2 or 3 parts. It was that long.
Was 2 parts, I think. I think you and Dawson's episodes were 2 parts, or maybe you had a 3rd part. I can't.
That could be. I can't remember. I just remember it was like when I got home and I was telling Jenna about it. She's like, "Are you serious?" Because I didn't get home till like midnight or 1 that night.
We shot late that night.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. But yeah, I got Dave back. So if the listeners are new to this season, they're just starting to listen for this season because this season's video too now. Introduce yourself a little bit for the new listeners if they have not listened to episode 1 of you.
Oh, okay. My name's Dave Florkowski. I've grown up in Northwest Ohio and Bryan area pretty much most of my life. There's a period of about 3 or 4 years where I moved up to Michigan, lived around the Detroit area, did communications up there. We did phone lines, data lines, TV lines. We did old construction, new construction. So basically kind of grew up and matured up, around the Michigan area, and then came back down to Ohio to go back to school, graduated and became a nurse in 2007. Started working as a nurse in 2008.
That's right. This big guy, he's a nurse.
Yeah. And I'm also a gaming geek too.
Yep.
I was talking to a buddy of mine just a few days ago, and he was like, I was like, talking about fishing, and he goes, I didn't know you fish. And I'm like, dude, we've had this conversation. I go, I fish, I hunt, I'm a gaming nerd. I've been playing video games since I was like 6. He's like, I knew that you hunted, but I didn't know you fished too. And I'm like, yeah, I'm jack of all trades, master of none, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I've been back in Ohio ever since, and so I work as a nurse. I do a lot of stuff with several different youth groups, ministries. I do a few other things, volunteer on the side. I like to do, put my hands in a little bit of everything.
You like to stay busy.
I do, and whether that's being busy in the gym or being busy outside or being busy on my computer, as long as I'm doing something, I'm never bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dave's also a big time lifter. As you can see, pretty big guy. He likes lifting some weights.
Yeah, not recently. And we talked about that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I have Dave on, especially for. I mean, I know this podcast is going to go in several different directions today.
Sure.
We've always talked about nonsense,
right?
But honestly, I wanted to cover though today. A big one is how to come back from an injury or a sickness to the gym.
Illness, yeah.
Because believe it or not, Dave Florkowski here. How old are you? 42, and you had shingles.
Yep.
You had shingles.
I'm about 6 weeks out.
Now, shingles is something you get when you're like, you could get when you're like 60, 70. It's not very popular amongst young people.
Yeah. Shingles is basically chickenpox for adults. If you've had chickenpox growing up, you can get shingles. If you've never had chickenpox growing up, you can't get shingles. It's the same virus. But if you have never had chickenpox and you're around somebody that has active shingles, they can give you chickenpox just like that. So, so about 6 weeks ago, the Awakening, which is one of the youth ministries that I do, I was set up to go do that weekend ministry, and I came down with shingles, like 3 days before. And I was to be in the kitchen preparing food that entire weekend. So being around a lot of people plus preparing food, not a good idea.
No.
Especially, I know there were at least like 3 or 4 people on that weekend that have never had chickenpox. And so it was like, there's no way.
I had it when I was 5.
Yeah, I had chickenpox when I was 2. Because back in the day, now they try to vaccinate kids for chickenpox. Yeah. But back in the day, it was if one kid in the neighborhood came down with chickenpox, all the other families in the neighborhood would have all their kids play with them, so all the kids would get it.
Same when I was a kid. Yeah, we did the same exactly.
Yeah, and that's how I got it. My brother had it when he was like 4-ish.
Yep.
And my mom let the 2 of us play together, so I was 2 at the time, and so that's what happened.
I think it's how that happened with me and my friends too. And my parents just let us play together, so we all were exposed and we all had it.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that, but like shingles and chickenpox are related.
Yeah, it's the exact same virus.
So if let's say you had shingles, could you have chickenpox then later?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
the only real difference is chickenpox affects the entire body. The first time you're affected with it.
Yeah.
Which is why they say if you're older, it hits you harder because your immune system isn't as versatile when you're older.
Yeah.
When you're younger, your immune system it's really young, it's really robust, it can handle a lot of stuff. And so the only other difference is when you're younger and you catch chickenpox, or even if you're older, chickenpox hits the whole body, right? You've got chickenpox all over the place. When you hit shingles, it only hits certain parts of the body. So you've got a very specific set of nerve dermatomes, pathways that run from head to toe, right? So when shingles activated chickenpox for adults, ends up exacerbating, it'll stick to a very specific dermatome line. It's not set in stone which one it is, but it sticks to a very specific dermatome, usually just on one side of the body.
Oh.
So shingles usually only affects you on the left or the right. It's very rare that it hits both sides.
Wow, that's weird. So where do you have it? Or do I want to know?
I'm okay with it. If you can handle it, I can.
I can handle it.
So basically for me, it was the left side of my right buttocks, from the midline all the way to my crack.
Wow.
From the very top of the cheek all the way down to the bottom and into the groin.
Wow.
So, shingles basically starts as, red, patchy, inflamed areas. That turns into blistering. And then those blisters, they scab over. And then once that heals, you're still dealing with nerve pain, itchiness, a little bit of burning. And it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, it sounds like chickenpox.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. So I thought I had it bad. Because the worst part of it was the fever, the nausea, the headache, the early symptoms. Like, it was so bad that I think one night the only way I could deal with the headache and the nausea was to just lean over a chair and just rock back and forth. I did that for like 4 hours one night. It was so bad. Once that got out of the way, then I was just dealing with, the blisters, the scabbing, the itching, the burning. It hurt to stand, it hurt to sit, it hurt to walk. I would go to work, and at work I'm on my feet almost all day.
Yeah.
Mostly standing, but some walking around. I work at Parkview Physicians Group in Bryan, so it wasn't very taxing physically. But by the time I would get home, I'd be exhausted.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have the energy to do anything. And so for the first 2 weeks where the symptoms were the hardest, plus the next 2 weeks afterwards, that's all it was. Like, I'd go to work, I'd come home, and I'd just be like, oh my God, this is horrible.
You didn't take time off work then?
Well, I since it was getting ready for that ministry weekend, I was already taking that Friday and that Monday off. But I also took off that Thursday. So I was off from, Thursday till Monday, came in that Tuesday. And since my job isn't all that much physically taxing, unless I have to move people, it was doable. It was doable for me to be there and deal with the symptoms while at work.
Are you contagious with that? Like chickenpox, you're probably
yeah.
So
to a certain point, like if you have up from the onset to the point where it's about 7 to 10 days ish, but from the onset to about the point where the blisters before they scab over, you're contagious. Once the blisters are scabbed over and now you're in that healing process it's not contagious.
And that's when you went back to work.
Yeah.
And that's
pretty much.
I was gonna say you worked at a hospital. I think they would be like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, right. And yeah. So yeah, plus my when I was at work, my patient interaction was minimal.
Yeah.
So that made it fit really well.
You work in the labs, don't you?
No, I work with our physical medicine and rehab section. Basically what we do is just nerve and muscle studies. Looking for nerve damage, looking for muscular, way to word it. Basically muscular weakness, unknown muscular weakness. The most common thing that we see is carpal tunnel. So we look for that stuff, checking for pinched nerve damage, muscle weakness.
How did you get shingles? I think people are probably asking.
Honestly, I think I did it to myself. The two most common causes of shingles flaring up are a weakened immune system and overstressing the body. So for me, my workouts are pretty brutal, and I had gotten to a point where I said, you know what, I want to start running and I want to get down to an 8.5-minute mile.
Oh, wow.
And
Dave running.
Yeah, I know. The sky is falling.
I was going to say, is the apocalypse coming?
Hell's freezing over. Because I hate running. And for those people that don't know me, like I'd rather have my eyes gouged out than run.
Yeah.
Like sprints, swimming, biking, I'll do it all day long.
Running sucks.
And running at anytime you're like 230 plus and you're doing long distance running, it's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone a guy who's 270. But I wanted to get down to an 8.5-minute mile. So I decided to kind of alter my program a little bit, my workout routine. So I decided to do cardio before lifting.
Ooh, Dave. This is not smart.
It was a good learning experience, I'll tell you. So I went in and I would do 10 minutes of rowing, which isn't bad.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And then I would do 10 minutes of running, but I'm not used to running. And so, I would do, I think the first day I did it, I ran, I think I ran 6 laps around the track at the Y, which the track at the Y, 12 laps is a mile, right? So I ran a quarter mile.
Okay.
And I, would walk a couple laps, run a couple laps, and then it went 1 and 1. And then I got to sprinting the lengths, the long lengths, and then sprinting the long lengths and walking the short lengths. And then I went into my workout and I got home and I felt like death. I was just so exhausted. And then I had a couple days off, and then that was on a Friday. And then I went in, I did it again on a Monday. And on that Monday, by the time I got home, that was when I started noticing like the patchy, reddened, inflamed areas. And by Wednesday, they didn't go away and they started blistering. And I was like, this isn't right. So I went in and I got checked, and they said, yep, it shingles.
Were you like, Jenna, I need you to come look at my ass?
Yes. Because, for people who don't know, Jenna, I'm a nurse. Jenna's a nurse. Jenna's mom is a nurse. My best friend, Will, he's a nurse. His wife is a nurse. So
You're surrounded by nurses.
Yeah, we have a very strong nursing community.
Yeah.
And she was convinced it was cellulitis, which is an infection of, basically the cells under the skin, which generally speaking, cellulitis is typically a lot more serious than shingles. So that was her big concern. But when I went and I got checked out, they said it's shingles. They started me on a prescription to try and heal the inflamed patchy areas quicker. Mm-hmm. Because you can't speed up the process of healing shingles, but you can speed up if you get medication in soon enough. You can speed up the process of the blisters, the scabbing, the rashes.
I see.
For the rest of the symptoms, the infection just has to take its course, for the most part.
So are you still running?
No.
Okay.
I've decided I'm going to do my running in a different manner, because what I was wanting to do is there's a younger guy that goes to our youth group. His name's Tanner. He turns 21 next month, and he was going to go into the police academy out here at Northwest. And so, Tanner, he's got 2 younger brothers, and they lost their dad, I think when Tanner was like around 16 years old. Ooh. And so, I've been a part of their life for quite some time. And I said to Tanner, look, if you go out to the police academy, I'll go out there with you. And so both of us were pretty pumped about it. But what it is the short is you go out to the police academy, you have to do a physical test, before they let you start the program. You have to do a certain amount of push-ups within a minute. You have to do a certain amount of sit-ups within a minute, and then you have to run 1.5 miles within a certain time limit. What you start with, you have a certain goal to hit, and then by the end of the program, which is 2 semesters, you have to improve by a certain amount. And then all those numbers, push-ups, sit-ups, and the 1.5 miles, the measures of how much you have to do or what you have to get depends on your age range. So for me, being 42, I think it's 40 to 49 is the range, I think, for my range.
Push-ups?
For all of them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
The push-ups, sit-ups, and running, all of that is varies by your age range.
Okay.
So for me, I didn't care about the push-ups and the sit-ups because I do all that crap at the gym anyway.
It's simple.
It wasn't going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But the running, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up, I think for me at the start, I don't remember what the time frame is for the mile and a half at the start, but at the end, the mile and a half time frame for me, being my age, is I have to get it in 8.5 minutes. 8.5 minute mile, basically. 8.5 minute mile for a mile and a half.
Okay.
And I was at a 10-minute mile, the 2 times where I actually did it.
I see.
And so, obviously, if I come down with shingles, there's no way, because I come down with shingles the week before the physical test was due. And I was like, there's no way. Yeah. I'm not even going to try it.
No.
Like a 10-minute mile now, trying to get an 8.5 minute a week after I come down with shingles, and shingles can take anywhere between 3 to 8 weeks to completely get through.
Oh, gosh.
I'm like, there's no way.
No.
There's absolutely no way. But it's funny how things work out, because Tanner wasn't ready because he didn't prepare properly either. I think because since he's 20, I think he has to get like a 7.5 minute mile or a 7-minute mile.
I see.
He was way off. So he didn't hit it. And then I ran into another guy yesterday. I don't know if you heard about the concert in Bryan.
No.
Yeah, there was a concert in Bryan yesterday called Girl Named Tom. It was a decent sized event, but there was a volunteer over there that I was speaking to yesterday. He was going to go into the academy too, and he missed it. And so the 3 of us were like, geez, we're all planning on going into the academy next year to do it. So
And
we'll probably end up training together,
Wild.
early spring, next year to try and get ready for that. But that was the reason for going over to, trying to get down to an 8.5 minute mile.
I see.
So, I mean, yeah, rowing for 10 minutes, which isn't bad, and then running for 10 minutes, which is horrible, especially for a guy my size that's not used to running, and then going in and doing my lifting workout, it was just too much.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about that, though. I mean, cardio before lifting, I never recommend. I mean, I always recommend, put the majority of your energy for what you're trying to do, and that's lifting, building muscle, because muscle, is the long-term investment.
Yeah.
And cardio is the short-term gratification.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you can argue that both ways.
Well, it depends on what your goals are.
And it also depends on what kind of cardio you're doing too. If you're doing like long distance running, that's one type of cardio. If you're doing high intensity calisthenics, sprint swimming, long distance biking, I mean, all that's different. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating to me how all those different forms of cardio can build your body in different ways. I think that's cool.
Yeah. So your cardio was mainly just HIIT type of training, right? You were doing HIIT or steady state?
HIIT.
Okay.
Most of the cardio that I do is HIIT training.
Okay.
The rowing and the running was the first extended cardio, and sometimes when I swim, it's more like an extended cardio type exercise too.
Right.
But like the sprints that I do, and the other thing about the running, like half the guys that I know, that did go through the academy, they didn't do like the running portion as a running cardio. They did intermittent sprinting. So there's a guy that I know, works for the Bryan PD. When he did it, he sprinted the long lengths of the track and then did like a power walk or a light jog for the short lengths of the track. And so, the sprinting that I do, it's usually, dragging the tire.
That's what we talked about that last season.
Yeah.
You sprinting with the tire.
Yeah. Sprinting, dragging the tire behind me. So, I mean, I usually do 40-yard sprints. I do 30 of them. So I got to thinking, I was like, the 1.5 miles is basically 6 laps around a track, right?
A football track, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you figure the long lengths are essentially 100 yards ish, and then the short lengths are, I don't know what the distance is, but it's
more than 50.
Yeah, but I got to thinking, I said, if I can get 1.5 miles is basically 1,200-yard sprints, down, do the short length, down, do the short length. Mm-hmm. If I can get to the point where I can do 100-yard sprints, 100-yard sprints with the tire, even if it's a heavy run and not a quote unquote sprint, doing 100 sprints without the tire 12 times compared to 30, it should be no contest.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
So that's what I'm, come early spring, that's probably what I'm going to start training for is, start training, working up to doing 30 100-yard sprints with the tire. That way, when the physical test comes along, 1,200-yard sprints without the tire shouldn't be that horrible.
No, it shouldn't be. So you want to be a police officer?
No. I Tanner wants to be a police officer. Okay. And then Danny, the guy who...
You're more just curious.
Well, I've been interested in things that have involved law and law enforcement for probably like the last couple years. I think it'd be cool to be a volunteer officer. But I mean, I've been a nurse for 14 years.
Yeah.
I'm not going to walk away from that, especially not to go into law enforcement.
Yeah, I was going to say not nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, granted, we live in a pretty rural area.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like the big cities. Like,
oh yeah,
get out of the big cities if you can help it.
Yeah,
it's not a good place to be. In certain areas, especially your larger cities, from what I've seen, the general mindset or the general consensus towards law enforcement is pretty negative. And some of that is warranted, and some of that is, I think, embellished, because that's all you hear about on the news is, these cops did this bad thing to this person. And yet, when you had all these people calling for, defund the police and get the police out of our neighborhoods, then the neighborhoods fall apart, and then they're saying, why is our neighborhood falling apart? No one's helping us. Like, well, you were calling to get rid of the police, and then you wonder why crime goes up.
it's common sense, you would think.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where, yeah, like I said, a lot of the bigger cities, I'm like, dude, get out of the cities.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, cities when I was living in Detroit, everything was just go every day. And, you get into, you're always busy doing something, which for some people, I mean, that's great. That's fine.
Yeah. People like that.
But you get out into the more rural areas, and once some people, they have a hard time getting to that point where they can physically slow down and actually appreciate not being crazy busy all the time. If you can get to that point, like, dude, use that to take your stress level down.
Some people can't do that. Some people just have to stay busy.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people that just cannot be bored.
They can't slow down.
No.
Yep.
And it will drive them insane.
I've had a few people, usually it's youth, that, they tell me, like, Northwest Ohio is a boring area. I'm like, it's only a boring area if you're a boring person.
Yeah.
Find something to do. It's not like there's nothing to do.
And boring is a subjective word.
Yeah.
Boring
absolutely.
to one person might be exciting,
Yeah.
Gaming, like, to us is like awesome. We love it. And then other people might be like, you spend all your
gaming's done.
Spend time playing. So it's boring is a very subjective term.
Yeah. Like, we went on a mission trip to New York years ago. And one of the things that we talked to some of these kids, and we went to Albany, New York, and one of the things that we talked about to some of these kids is, growing up, we made potato launchers, and they're like, "What?" And like, yeah, we would take a 3 or 4 inch PVC pipe, and we would put a cap on the end of it and drill a hole, and then we would we'd spray a bunch of hairspray and aerosols into the pipe, and then we would shove a huge potato down into the pipe. And then you take a match and you light the fuse hole, and the pressure building up behind the potato creates enough pressure that it shoots the potato, and it's, potatoes covered in aerosol. So the potato's on fire, shoots it. It looks like an on fire mortar flying through the sky. It's hilarious.
Do not do it at home.
Do not try that at home.
Do not try it at home.
But yeah, this one kid, he's living in Albany. He's never even heard of anything like that. I mean, you can do it with corn too, but you didn't hear that from me.
That's what I'm familiar with. We did that all the time.
Yeah. So he's looking at us in just disbelief, and he's like, "That's not real." And we're like, showed him a picture of it, and he was like,
"How old was the kid?"
He was like 15.
Oh, they probably don't know that kind of stuff back then.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have fields in Albany.
Oh, true.
Albany, New York.
I forgot it was Albany, New York.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, it was kind of close to the ghettos of Albany. It was a bad place. Like, not crime wise, but I mean, the areas that we went to, it would not be uncommon for you to see kids from the age of 2 to the age of 16 running around in the neighborhood with no adult supervision, because they didn't have parents, or because their parents were in jail, or because their parents were dead, or because you just didn't know where their parents were.
Right.
Or it could have been extended family that was taking care of them too. So I mean, it was a bad place for them to be, but it was cool. The church that we worked with out there, they did a lot of work. As pastor, I don't remember his last name, was Pastor Charlie. And it was a really good experience for a lot of the kids that went, because they'd never experienced inner city. They'd never experienced this, I don't want to say economy, but they never experienced this environment where there's no one watching over you. Like, you have no adult supervision. So I always encourage anybody, anytime you can do a mission trip to any impoverished place or any poor place, especially if you can go outside the country, do it. Because a lot of people, I would say a lot, if not most people in this country, they take for granted what they have because they've never seen what it's like to not have.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it really puts things into perspective. So I mean, if you can ever do a mission trip, especially one that goes outside of the country, do it.
Yeah.
Because you'll appreciate what you have a lot more after you go do it.
Oh, for sure. And you just get to see more of the world too and how things are over there compared to here, which is completely different. You brought up the country differences, between a city person and a country person.
Yeah.
I know people that we've brought from the city to visit from, like my little sister Taylor, she has, her friends from the city, and her boyfriend also was a city boy. The first time coming here in the country, he was like blown away. Blown away by everything and what it all looked like. Like
it's
all
all
fields,
green.
All the fields and the tractors. Like it's a different world for those people that don't know like the country life completely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a culture shock to them.
Yeah, it is.
Like, what do you do all day? Stuff.
And for us, like when I went to college in Cincinnati, I mean that was just a culture shock to me. I hated
sure.
it. I hated it.
Yeah.
After 2 years, I moved back because I was like, I can't do the city life.
Yeah, and I did the city life when I moved to Michigan.
Yeah.
And I sometimes wonder if I would have had the opportunity to go to a 4-year college out of high school, I wonder if I would have turned out the same. I don't know if I would have. I don't think I would have.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think it would be like a 180 completely in the wrong direction. But I don't think I would be who I am now if I would have went to a 4-year college right out of high school.
Dave the partier.
Yeah. That's a scary thought.
That is a scary thought.
Yeah, hard pass. I don't know who I would be if I've a couple of people that know me or people that have asked, they know I've never touched alcohol.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say that because when you grow up Catholic, they use real wine in communion at the Catholic schools and Catholic churches. But most people are like, yeah, that doesn't count. And
so you've never had a beer or anything, or
just the smell of beer. I'm like, ugh, that's what you drink.
So I offer you whiskey. No, you wouldn't take it back here.
No.
Some best whiskey back here. I have the Woodford Reserve, which is so
part
good.
of that reason is alcoholism it runs deep on both sides of my family.
Yeah.
My dad was an alcoholic. For the first half of my life, I didn't know. And then when I found out, I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't, because that when anybody gets drunk, they become a specific type of personality. You've got happy drunks, you've got sad drunks, you've got people that put on the beer goggles, who go after everything in a skirt, whether it's male or female.
We know a lot of them people.
And then you've got the angry drunks. Yeah. And I don't know what kind of person I would be, and I don't care to know.
A lot of times it's the opposite of what you usually are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I'm an introverted person. I get real extroverted when I'm drunk. I don't give a shit. I'll hit on any. I'll be the one that hits on any skirt that moves.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what I'd be, because I don't know. I could be like the sappy drunk. I could be like the angry drunk. I don't know. Just I don't care to know. Like, I love hanging out with the friends of mine who do drink, because I mean it's free entertainment.
Oh yeah.
And if they want somebody to drive, I'm like, feed me.
I don't drink like I used to, and I'm the same way. If I go out with people, and they're drinking, yeah. I'm enjoying the show. Right. That's what I call it. I'm sitting back with one beer, just chilling, watching the show. Yep. It's a good time.
Yep, free entertainment.
Yeah, you don't need to drink to have fun. You just being around that kind of audiences can be a good time too.
Yeah.
So getting back to the main topic of the podcast here. So you have been out of the gym now for how long?
About 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks, 6.5 weeks ish.
Okay. And where were some of your lifts before you stopped going to the gym?
So the most noticeable ones that I was doing was for bench press. I'd gotten up to, well, about 6 months ago, I got up to bench press. I would do 10 sets of 275.
10 sets?
Yeah.
Wow. 10 sets of what?
275.
How many reps though?
A burnout. Every set's a burnout.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So every set was a burnout. I was getting to the point where the first set would be like 8 or 9, and then it would just kind of scale down, as I got further. So usually it would start at 8 or 9, and then by the last set, I'd be at like 4 or 5.
Still good though. You maintained at least 5 reps on that. That's really good.
Yeah. I got to a point where, so after I would get done with those 10 sets, I would go up to 295, 305, 315. When I started doing 315, it started messing with my right shoulder. And I'm guessing it's because I was so fatigued at that point that I couldn't keep the form right.
After your sets, you did this?
Yeah. After 10 sets.
Dave, that's crazy.
I have my moments. So
Usually people work up to a top set and back off sets.
Right.
You're doing 275, and then after you're all right. That work is done. Now we're going to 315.
that did my set reps did scale down quite a bit. So I'd get the last set of 275. I was at 5 reps. 295 it would usually be like 3 or 4. 305 is usually like 2 or 3, and then 315. I don't think I could ever get more than 1, maybe 2 if I'm lucky.
Yeah, you just did 10 sets.
Right.
You did 100 something reps already of over 275
Dawson and
pounds.
the boys they said the same thing. They're like, I'm like, dang it, I only got 315 one time, and they're like, you just did 10 sets of 275, and I'm like.
I love it though. That's variety, man. That's different, and I like it.
I started out at 225 about 4 to 6 months prior to that. So I 10 sets of 225. So I built my way up because I had said when I was about 245, because I went 225, 245, 265, and then 275, scaling up. And when I got to 245, I was like, man, how crazy would that be if I was doing 10 sets of 275? And then like 4 months later, that's what I was doing.
Wow.
But I love doing dumbbell bench press, but I've never seen my dumbbell bench press strength increase like my 10 sets strength increased. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Which was really weird because when I got to 10 sets of 275, I grabbed the 100-pound dumbbells. I'm like, man, this feels super light. And it was just, it blew my mind. So when I got to 315 and it started messing with my shoulder, I stopped doing 10 sets of 275 and started working back on dumbbells again for about 3 months.
Okay.
And then I decided, well, maybe if I work my way up to, doing 275 again, and I just work up more slowly, maybe I can get up to that 315 again and not have it screw with my shoulder so much. So I went back to it, and I had to start back at 245 because just in that 3 month period, even though I was doing bench press and I was doing, dumbbells, I was doing 100-pound dumbbells, I was strapping 25s on the 100s. I was strapping 35s on the 100s. So I'm doing 135-pound dumbbell bench press.
Holy crap.
I go back to I go back to doing the 10 sets of bench, and I'm all the way back down to 245. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened to my strength?
Yeah.
So I did decide to cut it down to 7 sets instead of 10. And so I got up to 7 sets of 275, and I was not nearly as strong yet. So that was where I was at before shingles. And then the only other noticeable strength for certain lifts was I was doing hip thrusts on leg day, like you got me doing. And so I don't know if I ever showed you the video, but I was doing leg day, and this is probably about a month before shingles. I was doing leg day, and I was feeling great. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna, for my hip thrusts, I'm just gonna keep going up and see where I can get. So I basically did, on the Smith rack, it only fits 7 plates on each side, right? Yep. So I had to start stacking plates up.
Oh no!
So I got to 3 plates.
Do you have a video of yourself doing this?
Yeah, I got a video of it.
I want it up here. We're
okay,
gonna put it up here.
It's on my phone. I can send it to you.
Awesome, perfect.
Yeah. So the video I don't remember if it was Dawson or Caleb or somebody took a video of it, but it was 3 plates stacked on top of the 7, which is 925. And I tried 3 reps. I only got 1 good rep out of the 3. The other 2, they're kind of like iffy. Yeah. But that was my PR for hip thrust was 925. And somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it might have been somebody at church. I don't know. They were like, good God, poor Jenna. And I could picture in my mind Jenna being like, it's not a big deal. I put a saddle on him and strap it on. Well, there we go. So I mean, it's safe. But I got to thinking, and then going back to change my workout to try and get down to a 10.5 minute mile. Being 42, doing 10 sets of 275 or getting up to 315 or hip thrusting
almost 1,000 pounds.
900 plus. Yeah, it'd be awesome if I could have put like a 4th plate on each side, which would have been 925 plus 90, which is what, 1015, something like that. But 42 years old, there's no need for me to lift that much weight.
I know. I've already hit the same idea. Like I've talked to Chad about this. I've talked to some other guests I had this season on about this very thing. As you age, your mindset differs. Like, is this risk worth the reward at this age?
Well, and that's the other thing. Like the hip thrusts, the whole time I've been doing hip thrust, because some people would be like, oh my gosh, doesn't that kill like your hips or your lower back? All the times I've been doing hip thrust, no matter how heavy I was going, I didn't feel like it was putting any strain on, like the joints of my lower back or my hips or anything. And same thing with bench press, except for when I got to 315 and messing with the shoulder, I never really had any kind of strain that I could feel in any of my joints, which is why I would just keep going.
Yeah.
Even
with the feel. I mean, if it felt good, you're going to keep going with it.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So then that's what you did now. So you got injured then, and where did your lifts go from after you get injured? After you
You mean after I got sick?
Yeah, after you got sick, not injured.
Yeah. So after I got sick, I mean, I haven't been to the gym since.
Yeah.
I haven't been.
So you
back.
have no idea where they are.
No. If I had to guess, I would say that I probably have, like, say for example, if I did 7 to 10 sets of bench press, I would probably have half of the strength doing 225 as I did when I started. So when I started doing 10 sets, I was doing 225 usually for 9 to 13 reps on the first set. If I had to guess, I would say I probably couldn't even hit half of that many reps at 225. Because like the first 2 weeks of shingles, my diet was Gatorade and water. That's it. Wow. And after that, like I was afraid to start eating.
Yeah.
Because after you don't eat for so long and your body's not used to, be a little gross for some people. After your body's not used to getting rid of food, what you eat to start, or what you start eating as you start eating again, plays a huge role of whether or not you're going to have to deal with constipation. So I had to deal with that for about 2-3 weeks.
Oh God.
And I was trying to just intake as much fiber as I possibly could. And it sucked. Plus I lost 12 pounds of muscle, from, no activity, 2 weeks of no food. So yeah, it's a long, arduous process of trying to get back to a point where you're even semi-normal.
Right.
Like, yesterday was that concert, right, that I volunteered for. So I was on my feet walking around. The concert wasn't until 8, but I was there from 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock because they were expecting so many people. So I was walking around the park doing whatever they needed me to do for 7 hours. And then the day before that, so this had been Friday, I went out with a buddy of mine to just practice softball, just get out there for a little while. So, I mean, we did some hitting, we did some throwing around back and forth. He hit some fly balls into the outfield that I chased after, and vice versa. And probably like for 3 or 4 fly balls that I chased after towards the end, I could feel my legs weakening to the point where we're getting ready to buckle. And I was like, yeah, it's time to back off. Because before that, I played church league softball during the summertime. Before shingles, I could run around the outfield all game. Oh, yeah, you could have no problem, and even run around the bases, and I'm not even winded.
And beat all the kids probably too.
Most of them, yeah.
Oh yeah, I guarantee.
Because that's how I trained. But after shingles, I knew it was coming. But at the same time, it doesn't make the blow any easier.
Yeah. So that's demoralizing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get used to performing at a certain level. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but performing at a certain level, and then that hits you, and then you try to come back to it, and it's like, I mean, this was almost as bad as when I busted my Achilles. Because at least with my Achilles,
you could train.
Yeah,
that's when we met.
Yeah. With the Achilles, like once I got to like week 4, I could start training again. This is week 6. And I've lost so much muscle strength, muscle mass, muscle memory. I've lost so much stamina that it's horrible.
What's your plan to come back? Like, have you made because when I blew out my disc in my back, my L4, L5, I had to take like 6 months off of any heavy training. I could still do shoulders and arms, but that's about it. I need even just chest presses hurt my back. I couldn't even do chest presses. So in my meantime, I would do tons of walking. And also I was creating a program to come back to too, like something, a motivation, a game plan, basically. Sure. Have you done any of that? Like
I've done a little bit. So like I said, this last Friday, we went out to practice softball, me and a buddy of mine. And I knew that I I know that I don't feel like I'm ready to try going back into the gym yet. If I did, I know that it would be like probably the bare minimum. Kind of like how it was when I was, training after my Achilles injury.
See.
So we have a softball game coming up. And so I decided that I'm going to run 2 or 3 times sprints with the tire this next week, but it's going to be like a light jog. They're not going to be quote unquote sprints per se, because there's just no way. Like my body just wouldn't be able to handle it.
No.
So I'm going to start out with, and I've, like I said, I walked around for 7 hours yesterday. Walked a little bit before that in the morning, Saturday morning, with my wife. So, I mean, I'm going to try once I'm getting back into the gym, I'm probably just going to start with swimming to begin with, and then maybe some rowing. And that'll probably be it for maybe a week or so. Like I'm really hesitant to try and lift, partly because I don't know how much my body can take. Plus, I don't know how much I'll actually be able to lift. And that'll be just another, mental blow.
Yeah.
But I've been saying for years that I want to overhaul my lifting program and stop lifting heavy and do more like intense bodyweight exercises. Like just the other day, I saw a video. This guy had a couple, I'm guessing 10 pound or 20, probably 10 pound dumbbells in his hands. And so he goes down, he basically does a burpee holding on to a dumbbells. And then he comes up with it, does a backflip with them. Right back down into another burpee with the dumbbells, comes up with it, does a backflip with it.
That's crazy.
Obviously, that's not my level.
I mean,
but I mean, some kind of, intense body exercise like that, to work up to, because I want to be able to do more than just 4 pull-ups with my body weight. And I want to be able to, trim down a bit more than just being big, thick, and massive. You know what I mean?
I see what you mean, but that doesn't mean you have to stop lifting heavy, though.
Oh, I know.
You can lift heavy. And
if I focus on lifting heavy, I'm not gonna have any energy to do any of the other stuff.
Yeah,
like cardio. You lift. Like I can't tell how many times I've wanted to do cardio after I get done lifting, and I'm so exhausted when I get done lifting. I'm like, screw it. It just, I would love to get down to a point where, not completely there, but I would love to get down to a point of being slimmer than what I am now. I'm a big dude.
You are a big dude.
And, people say, you're not fat. I'm like, the only reason it looks like I'm not fat is because my overhanging muscle in my clothes hides it all. I have my fair share of pudge to go around. Jenna probably would yell at me. She's like, don't lose all your pudge, because then I got nothing to grab.
I was going to say, Jenna's not going to like that.
Yeah.
Jenna's probably listening to this like, don't you dare lose that pudge.
Yeah, if I became completely ripped, she'd be like, there's nothing for me to grab onto. I'm like, well. So, I mean, it's going to be a journey of basically a journey of discovery of, where am I at? Where could I want to be? And then finding somewhere in the middle of, am I okay with this, or do I want to change something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, but like I said, being 42 and being, 265, 270, it's a lot of weight to carry around.
Oh, yeah.
And, I don't know if I want to be that heavy. And like I said, from no lifting for 2 weeks and no food, I lost 12 pounds of muscle. Well, it's like my older brother, he lives in Minnesota, and we went out there to visit him a couple weeks ago, and he just looked so much thinner. And he's doing some sort of cardio every day, and he's changed his diet quite a bit. And 2-3 years ago, he was 270, almost 280, and now he's down to 230.
Damn.
Yeah, and I was like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do any heavy lifting. I'd like to start with a lighter, more intense type of lifting and see how my body responds to it. Because I mean, that you could do the same lifting program, have two people, two different body types do the same lifting program, and their results are going to be completely different.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
So, that's what I was leaning towards of, trying something a little different and then see how my body responds to it, and then adjust from there.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes down to calories too, total calories. I always tell people, you can get lean, crazy lean, lifting super heavy, doing no cardio. I mean, by just calories. I mean, it's calories in, calories out,
Yeah. And your quality of calories you get too.
Well, yeah, obviously protein, carbs, fats,
Yeah. If you're eating fast food, like, 2, 3, 4 times a week, I mean, you're probably not going to get the results you want because you're eating garbage.
There's a good chance your calories are up just higher because of fast food. So what are your calories at? Like, what were they at before you got sick?
Before I got sick, I was between 32 and 3,500 calories a day. And it was so hard getting enough protein. Like, I was supposed to be getting, I think, 280 grams of protein a day.
1 gram per pound is what I recommend at least. 1 to 1.5 at max.
So there were like the time, and this is the crazy thing, when I was doing my 10 sets when I got up to 10 sets of 275, that whole time, I would very marginally miss my daily intake of protein. So I'd be at like 260 to 275 grams of protein a day. And that was when I had all my strength gains.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then I think it was when I stopped doing the 10 sets of 275 that I laxed when it came to checking to see, am I getting enough calories? Am I getting enough protein? And honestly, ever since then, I haven't really tracked my protein, but I know that I don't get enough protein.
Since you've been sick, you mean?
Even before I got sick. From the moment that I was working back to 7 sets of bench, to the point where I got sick, I got kind of laxed, kind of lazy with counting my macros, and calories. I mean, it's not hard to hit calories.
No.
Your macros, it's a little different story.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got to be a little bit strategic on that.
Yeah.
So I've known you for a long time, Dave. Has your training program evolved over the years at all? I just want to see, how has it evolved since, like, say from 2017 to 2018 when we first met?
What do you mean by evolved?
How has it changed? Like, what has your split changed? Just for me, like, I've changed things all the time. Through the years, I can look back at my logs and be like, okay, I was doing, push-pull legs back then, and now I'm doing, chest, legs, shoulders, and arms, like that kind of thing too. That's evolved over time. How has your training split kind of evolved over time?
The only thing that's ever changed was years ago, probably up until, I'm 42 now, probably up until the time that I was about 36, 37. Up to that point, I did what most other people did, where Monday was chest day, Tuesday was leg day, Wednesday was like shoulders and arms day. Thursday might be another chest day, or I might do chest again on Friday. And then, so you would have a certain muscle group every day of the week.
That's kind of how I go about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't used to. I actually evolved to that because I found I could recover better, made more progress. So I kept with it.
Yeah. So the thing that I switched to was, I usually, when I'm on it, I do a 4-day rotation. So day 1 is chest, and I try to do abs with chest and abs with shoulders.
Okay.
So day 1 is chest, day 2 is legs, day 3 is, I remember if I'm doing it right, day 3 is shoulders, and day 4 is arms. And then I cycle through that.
Where's back at?
Shoulders. I do shoulder and back on the same day.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so the reason why I switched to that is when I was doing a certain muscle group on a certain day, if I missed that day, if I didn't make up for it, when I come back the next week, I'm just picking up, trying to make up for that lost strength because I haven't worked that muscle group in, 4 to 7 days. Whereas if I do that rotation, that 4-day rotation, if like Wednesdays, I almost never go to the gym because I have youth group. So if I do, let's say Monday is chest day, Tuesday is leg day. Thursday, I can pick up where I left off, which would be back and shoulders. And then same thing if I skip a day on the weekend. So I'm always coming. I'm never longer than 5 days of rest in between. In between, doing the muscle group twice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's what I agree too with. For most people, hit a muscle 2 times a week at least. For most people, and it doesn't even have to be like people think like, oh, I have to do exactly chest a week. So the way I do it is, I train chest directly on Monday, chest gets hit. A lot of people don't know this, on shoulder press, your upper chest gets hit on shoulder press to a degree. And if you're like me, I set the incline a little bit back more on shoulders so I can actually engage more with the shoulders, instead of straight up, and just to hit a little bit more chest too. And that's, so you can have follow over movements too. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to schedule a chest fly here, shoulder fly here, because there's Passover there.
Yeah. For me, the only thing that I refuse to do is I refuse to do back and shoulders within a day of doing chest.
Yes.
I tried that a couple times, not for like because I wanted to, but because one of the guys was coming in, he was home from college. He wanted to do a chest day with me, and it was the day after doing shoulders, and I was like, you know what, fine, I'll go ahead and do it. Dude, my chest was so much weaker after, the day after doing back and shoulders. I was like, never again.
Yeah. No,
because I already knew, but I'd never actually done it. And so I did it, and I was like, yep, that's why I decided to never do that, and I'll never do it again.
Yeah, it's one of those things you learn real quick. Shoulders after chest, or chest after shoulders, vice versa.
Yeah.
You're going to have a bad time.
Yep. It's going to be a bad day for you.
So your game plan coming back to the gym, what is it going to be?
It's going to be... I'm probably going to do similar exercises, but it's going to be much lighter, and it's going to be probably more reps. So like, for example, we'll just, for example, chest day. The first day of chest that I go back, I'll probably do 7 sets again, but I'm probably not going to go any higher than 135. Or
what?
Is it 135?
135 is just a plate on it.
It's been so long since I've done that kind of weight. I'm like, is that right? One plate on each side, 135?
Yes, 135.
Yeah. So, because like I said, I want to be able to, go longer. So a burnout set with 225 is going to look very different to a burnout set at 135.
Oh yeah,
right.
You can just pump it out at 135.
Right. So some of these guys that they get up to 295, 315. You put 135 on there, and they might be able to like go for like 5 minutes, and they're like, yeah, I'm bored.
Yeah.
And it would be cool to be at that level, but at the same time, you got to think, all right, if you're doing 315 and you're only used to doing 2 or 3 reps, how's that going to affect your muscle stamina?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want to see, kind of like when I had my heel injury. I want to just cut it way down, see what my body can handle, and then go from there. I'm not going to throw on, 225 and just, go ham after being off for 6 weeks, over a month.
Yeah.
Because, chances are I know my body well enough. I'll probably try a little too hard, and, I might potentially hurt myself.
Yeah.
Whether it be a joint or a muscle. And I don't want that.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm no spring chicken anymore, and my risk of injury is a lot higher than what it was 10, 12 years ago.
Oh yeah, I've noticed even me, I'm 32 this year. I mean, everything is different now from when I was 23. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
23, 24, I had so much more endurance, stamina. I could keep up with a push-pull leg split 6 days a week. I just talked to Zach Spar yesterday. He was on the podcast, and he was telling me about a split. He trains 6 days a week. He does push-pull legs, and then a rest day. It's okay. And he's squatting heavy, every Monday, super heavy. And I'm thinking, enjoy your youth, because you get to an age where you just can't do that kind of shit no more.
Yeah. I mean, you can go heavy, but it's nothing like what it used to be.
No, it isn't.
Well, like, and I've had that experience too. Like when I was in my, mid 20s, I would go in for bench day, and I would start with the 50s, and I would do a set of, sets of 10. That's all I would do. So I'd do a set of 10 bench press with 50-pound dumbbells. And then I would jump to 70s, and I'd go 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. Sets of 10 every set. And then by the time I get to the hundreds, I do 2 sets of 10 with the hundreds like I'm bored. And I look back on that now, and I'm like, gosh, like I wish, because now I'll go as, usually a set it's 12 to 14. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And by the time I get to the hundreds, I'm lucky if I can hit 1 set of 10. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing less sets, almost the same amount of reps, and I'm not as strong.
Yeah.
And that's a mind job.
Yeah. What steroids are you planning on jumping on, Dave? Because everybody's jumping on steroids.
Stop! Don't use some bad words in front of me.
It's true though. Do you have any words on this? Because I kind of want. We talked to a few people on this season about steroids.
I'll never do it. I never have. I never will.
There are. It's so popular right now. Like,
because people want to be stronger than what they really are.
Yeah. No shit. That's since the beginning of time.
Right.
Performance enhancing drugs.
My view on any of that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a couple of views I have on it. So for one, a lot of guys would probably disagree with me, but to me, it's cheating. Your body has a very specific set ratio for estrogen and testosterone. When you start screwing with that, your body's natural process of making those hormones is going to get messed up eventually. Mm-hmm. For some guys, it might be within 6 months. For some guys, it might not be for 4 years. But you're altering the natural makeup of your body. Like supplements that your body can't normally make on its own, by all means, go for it. But for hormones, like I said, your body has a very specific ratio for hormones. You start messing with. That's why years ago people would say, if you take steroids, it'll shrink your balls, because for guys, all of your testosterone comes from the testicles, and
the pituitary gland.
Yeah, well, I mean, the pituitary gland is what tells me to turn it on. So what happens is, you get used to taking testosterone. Your testosterone levels are through the roof, and that ratio is expanded. Now all of a sudden your body is saying, well, wait a minute, we have our normal ratio is so out of whack. We need to stop making testosterone so that we can get that ratio back down. And the longer you're on steroids, the more your body stops making it. And then if you stop steroids, all of a sudden your testosterone levels, because your body's not making any, it's gonna tank, it's gonna bottom out, and then you could potentially have estrogen rebound. And that's
gynecomastia.
Yeah,
that's a very popular thing.
It's a whole world of hurt.
Yeah.
Now I've talked with several guys that have said, if you do the cycle and you're only on it for a certain amount of time, it doesn't mess with you. It may not mess with you as much long term, but it still messes with you.
Oh yeah.
But I've told guys, because they say, oh, look, I'm not going to tell you not to do it because you're going to do what you want to do regardless of what I say. Mm-hmm. But if you're competing and you want to run that risk, I mean, bodybuilding competing, go for it.
I say if you make money from it,
Yeah. You're not going to be able to get away with that if you do any powerlifting competitions, because they test you for that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But bodybuilders, I mean, even Arnold back in the day, I mean, they were jacked up on steroids.
Oh yeah.
So it's in my personal opinion, if you're doing it and you don't have any aspirations of doing it for your business, or you're not doing it for competition, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time.
And wasting like your health.
Yeah.
At that point.
Pretty much. But like I said, there's always going to be guys that are going to tell me that, you're wrong and this is what it's really like. Everyone's got their own opinion, right?
Well, nowadays, especially with this, I mean, this is such a popular topic.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And there's steroids now, you can get a prescription for TRT just like that. Anybody can go out. I mean,
now I can say that as you get older, you hit basically from 45 on, to when you hit 50 and 60 and 70, males do not produce as much testosterone. Like as you get older, your body exponentially starts producing less testosterone. So, talk to your doctor. But as your body stops producing as much testosterone, especially depending on what your diet is like, vast majority of the health problems that we have in this country are because of our diet and our activity level. Our diets are garbage. A lot of the foods that we eat are manufactured, they're processed. So a lot of the minerals and nutrients that you normally get in unprocessed foods isn't there because it's all processed. I watched a short clip of a guy who said, this food will kill your testosterone, and he's holding up like a bag or a box of donuts. Then he lifts up a plate of cookies. He's like, this food will kill your testosterone. And then he lifts up a plate of deli meats. So like ham, turkey, chicken, sliced deli meats. Even this will kill your testosterone because they're all processed. You look at what a lot of nations are trying to do is they're trying to get away from eating cows. Don't eat meat. Don't eat red meat. Don't eat chicken. Look conspiratorial, eat the bugs. But all of that has a huge impact long-term on your body's ability to have a healthy level of hormones, macronutrients, You look at a lot of the foods that we eat. If you next time you go into the store, anything that you would normally eat or anything that you would think is healthy, especially if it comes out of a box, look on the back of it. Look at the ingredients. If it has more than 5 to 7 ingredients, chances are you're eating something that's highly processed and it's wrecking your body, especially your digestional system.
Are there any key ingredients people should probably look for?
Look for or look away?
Well, look for to stay away.
Look for to stay away.
Yeah.
So anything that has an OSE on the end of it. Sucrose, fructose, glucose, anything.
Those are all natural sugars, Dave.
Fructose is a natural sugar, but it's still processed. Especially high fructose, fructose corn syrup.
That I agree
high
with.
fructose corn syrup. Sucralose isn't as bad.
Yeah.
Glucose isn't as bad.
Yeah.
But they're still processed.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to look for a sweetener that was, completely authentic, choose something that has cane sugar or honey. Honey being like, that should be your number one go-to if you're looking for a sweetener or any kind of sugary substance in a food. Honey, just straight honey, because honey is like it's like a wonder food.
There's a lot of people that talk high about it.
Yeah, calories, carbs, it's natural.
Yeah.
And it never goes bad.
Yeah.
Like I think we have a jar of honey that I think is, we use it off and on, and it's been in there for like a year.
Dude, I think I have one.
Never goes bad.
I think I have one in there that's been there like for 8 years.
Yeah, and and for people who aren't used to honey, like if you have a jar of honey, try and get glass if you can. Try to stay away from plastic containers. Because there's a lot of school of thought out there and a lot of concepts that if something sits in plastic long enough, it's going to leach the chemicals from the plastic into the food, and now you're eating the chemicals. So we try to stay away from plastic containers if we can. But with honey, after it sits for so long, it starts to crystallize. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's aging. So all you have to do to uncrystallize it is just heat it up. That's all you got to do. So if it's in a glass container, literally all you have to do is put it. You can either stick it in the microwave, or the safer way to do it is you just take a small pot, put some water in there, put the glass container of honey in there, and just turn it on low, and it'll slowly start to go back to its natural, its original state. So I mean, yeah, and honey, like you can put honey on biscuits, you can put honey on cereal, you can put honey on pizza if that's your thing.
What?
Yeah. Hawaiian pizza. People love pineapple on pizza.
I mean, that's true. I will agree with you on that. That is good.
So anything that you would put any kind of a sweetener on, use honey. I'm starting to get more accustomed to honey. Because it was hard. It was challenging for me to get used to, because
honey's good. Honey's really good.
For me, it's like an acquired taste. The more I try it, and I try it in little bits, the more I'm like, yeah, I can get behind this. But I've never tasted honey until I was like 35, because Jenna got me started on honey.
Oh, wow.
So up until, put honey on your ice cream, like vanilla ice cream with honey on it.
Yeah, true.
So I mean, there's anything that you would put any kind of sweet thing on, try using honey instead. And use that as your sweetener. Some things you can't do that with. Like I know some people that put honey in their coffee.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard of that for a long time.
I don't know if I could do that though.
I drink my coffee black.
Well, because some people put sugar in their coffee.
Yeah.
Put honey in there.
Yeah.
Honey's supposed to be a lot better for you than actual sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar. Processed.
Yeah.
Even sugar's processed.
Oh yeah, exactly. Even everything to a degree,
Right. Just about everything. Yeah, and if you can, try to find. There's a few places around here that you can get honey local.
Yeah.
Try to get honey local if you can, not from the grocery store. Or if you can get, or if you do get from the grocery store, look at where it's coming from, because supposedly honey that's local also can help you with allergies, local allergies.
I've heard of that. I don't know much about it, but I've heard of that very thing.
Yeah, I don't. Because and the theory behind it is that bees make honey, they pollinate flowers, they bring it back, they make honey. So if you get honey that's local, the local bees are using the local pollen, local allergens to make that honey, and now it helps your body with the local allergens, if that makes sense.
Really fascinating.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that,
figure.
but that is pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah.
So back to the actual testosterone talk.
Mm-hmm.
So, people say, And I know there is science that proves it does drop over age. That has been shown.
Yeah.
But I think, too, it's also lifestyle changes that cause that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're younger, you have less stress. You don't work a 9 to 5. So your stress levels
That's the hope anyway.
Well, when you're younger, I'm saying. Like when you're younger and you're 18, 19, 20, you're not working a 9 to 5 at that age.
Sure.
And so your testosterone is higher because you have less stress. You're not held to responsibility at that age either, like a lot of like us adults are.
And you're just younger.
And younger. And also you're probably getting more exercise. You're probably walking more, active wise.
Hopefully.
And I mean, I know I say this all like I'm hesitant to say this because times have changed so much because everything's digital nowadays. We don't see people playing around on playgrounds anymore. I mean, it's a different type of
not
world.
As much anyway.
Not as much.
Not as many. Yeah.
Not as many. I mean, when we were kids, we were always outside.
We didn't have tablets. We didn't have iPhones. We didn't have notebooks. We had our video games, but it's weird. When we were kids, our punishment was to go outside and play.
Yeah.
Our punishment was to go outside and play.
Yeah, but we still enjoyed it though.
No, I got that backwards. Yeah, when I was a kid and we were being punished, you couldn't go outside to play. You had to stay inside. You couldn't do anything.
That's what you mean. Yeah,
now,
I was going to say. Yeah, it's
technology is like, and I was having this discussion with a buddy of mine recently, like technology is great, but everything that we've ever created in our society and our culture has been abused.
Oh yeah.
Technology being no exception.
Even artificial intelligence too.
almost all the kids in the two different youth groups that I help out with the most, almost all of our kids, especially the ones who have the most life struggles, TikTok is their number one escape. And if you've ever been on TikTok,
I think everybody, Dave, has been
on I've never been on TikTok. I refuse to get on TikTok.
Wow.
But I've seen some of the stuff that is on TikTok.
Okay.
So essentially, TikTok is raising our children, especially the children that come from troubled homes. Kids that only have one parent, kids that have one biological parent, one adoptive parent. TikTok is raising our children, especially with parents that they want their kids out of their hair, so they give them an iPhone, they give them a tablet.
Go play.
Go be distracted by this for 4 hours. The kids are being raised on TikTok, and you've seen some of the stuff that's on TikTok. That's what's raising our children.
That's insane.
And then it's a wonder why our children they can't have positive relationships with each other. They can't have they can't focus enough for education and for learning. They can't. They have a hard time interacting with
communicate. I was just writing down communicate.
Yeah, they have a hard time interacting with each other and with adults.
Yeah.
So it's gotten to this point where there's certain people that'll come back and they'll say, well, TikTok has some good informational stuff on it, and it does.
It does.
But the majority of it and the majority of information that kids are consuming off of TikTok is rotting their cognitive, or not their cognitive. It's rotting their mental and their processing mentality. And it's basically, you can argue that it's basically making our kids dumber.
I agree with that. And attention spans too.
Yeah.
Because all short form content is doing this nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even for adults. I mean, adults are used to scrolling through and find, if they don't like it, they scroll on.
Yeah.
Oh, they scroll on.
Yep.
Oh, they watch it. They like it. Okay. Oh, they're, I don't know. It's so different than when we watched, we grew up watching, actual videos and
we watched cartoons
and
awesome.
TV shows and stuff like that. Nowadays, kids can't even sit down and watch a freaking TV show all the way through without getting sidetracked.
Yeah, they get bored,
which is mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yep.
I would literally be so excited. I'd wake up on Saturday morning. It was time for Saturday cartoons. We had Pokemon to watch, Digimon, and I had my whole list to watch, and I watched them all.
Yeah.
Nowadays, kids won't sit down and watch one show. It's like their attention spans are completely shot.
TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Yep. I had mentioned the last time I was here on your podcast. There was a video that I watched of Simon Sinek. He did a TED Talk years ago, where these kids, when they watch their technology, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, now X, TikTok, all that stuff, when they're watching these videos and they get likes on their stuff, it gives them a hit of dopamine in the brain, which is also the same hormone that's released in our brain when we drink, when we smoke, and when we gamble.
Have sex.
In other words, it's highly, highly addictive.
Mm-hmm.
So you have kids that are basing their mental health, their self-esteem, and their level of purpose in life based off of how many followers they have, how many likes they get, how many comments they get on anything that they post. And if they don't reach a certain point, they start turning on themselves and saying, what's wrong with me? Why am I so messed up? Everything is wrong because I'm not getting these likes, these comments, these reposts on my content. I read something the other day where children in China, when asked what they want to be when they grow up, it's usually either doctor, lawyer, or astronaut or scientist. Kids in America, when they're asked what they want to be when they grow up, they say YouTuber,
influencer,
social media influencer. And it's just, it's mind-blowing that this is where technology is taking, the next generation. What's going to happen when they're 30 and they can't have an intellectual conversation. They can't function in what you would think of as now a normal society. What's going to happen in 30 years?
I think the scariest thing about technology is the fact it is making people think they can be their own gods.
Yeah.
It really is. People are building pedestals upon themselves, with their social media following, and they think they're on top of the world.
Yeah.
And they build.
I mean, you look at was it Klaus Schwab or Jeff? I think it's Jeff Bezos. That he referred to himself as a god.
I heard about that.
Yeah, he referred to himself.
I was like, the end is coming.
He referred to himself as a god, and he said, because basically you look at all the people that make all the money in the world. Mm-hmm. Once you have a certain amount of money, what are you going to do? Like, getting more money has no fulfillment. So the very next thing is, I want power. I want control. And one of the things that Jeff Bezos said was, now that I have more money that I can never know what to do with, it makes believing that I'm a god so much easier. And that's terrifying.
It's terrifying to hear that. Because in the Bible, it even says in the end times, people will love themselves more than they love each other, and that will grow.
Oh, that's been going on for a long time. Now it's just spreading.
That's what I mean. It's exaggerated. It's always been going on since the dawn of the ages,
Right.
That's natural, but it's grown to an elite level now with all the technology and stuff.
Yep. That
we can't even comprehend a lot of it.
It's grown exponentially because of technology.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's scary, it's scary what, the next generation that is in their preteens now, and then their kids, what it's going to be like, when we're in our 60s and 70s.
Yeah. In the Bible, it references, things will run as like birthing pains. It's described as birthing pains. Yeah. Now, birthing pains, they don't get worse, but they get more frequent. Right. So it makes me think, as we approach the end of times, these problems, these situations, all these things will become more frequently built up, and literally, like since COVID, I'd say, exponentially things have escalated, and things have one after another. We now have AI that completely does all kinds of stuff. I literally, I use AI to help generate scripts for these podcasts. It's insane.
People said in the late 80s that Terminator was going to become real life in the future. Oh, conspiracy theory. And now when you really start looking into what AI is doing and what it can do, that's really not that far-fetched.
It's not. Especially when the creator of AI from Google walked out of Google because he said, I don't want to be any part of where this is going.
Yeah.
That's insane. The creator of AI walked out on his own project because he was afraid of where it's going. And
usually the number one reason why people say we can't stop is if we don't create AI and make it this great thing, somebody else will. And to an extent, that's right. Which is why, as far as I'm concerned, there should be a global push to basically eliminate AI. Of the point that AI is now and where it's going to go in the next 10 to 20 years, that needs to be nixed.
I mean, I think AI there's a lot of cool things it can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I run a gaming YouTube channel, and I use it to generate captions for my shorts, so I don't have to literally do it all myself. It can save so much time and stuff.
Oh sure.
But I also see, to the degree you're talking about this, it needs to be regulated.
Yeah,
that's honestly what it needs to be.
Look at ChatGPT.
Yeah,
that's basically an AI program that you can literally ask it a question and it gives you a fabricated answer that is like mind-blowing. Like I've heard stories of students that would go to ChatGPT and say, I need a paper written on this topic. And then, within a few minutes, ChatGPT is...
Like I just said, I generate these outlines through ChatGPT.
Yeah, there you go.
So I do this very thing.
There you go.
And
Shawn's been absorbed by the system already. Look out.
I know, seriously. I mean, because of that, though, is how we've been able to do this season. I mean, literally, I have not been able to put in the production all this. I've been able to knock out all these episodes for you guys way ahead of time because of AI. I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have had to hire 2 other people to help me with this. But it's like my personal assistant. So it's like I'm thankful for it because I'm able to push out this content to you guys so quick.
And it's like I mentioned before, technology can be a great thing.
Yeah.
But like everything else that has ever been created in our culture, in our society, in our country, everything that we've ever created has been corrupted at some point.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's just human nature. I mean, I don't think you can get away from that.
No, I think since the dawn of time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's our nature as a species. Yeah, unfortunately.
Guess what time it is for, Dave? It's time for Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm probably going to fail this one.
Do you think you're smarter than a fifth grader, Dave?
Well, it depends on the fifth grader.
Dave Seidel said the same thing. He said,
"Oh, really?
I'm probably smarter than the nowadays for fifth graders, but not the old fifth graders." Right. And I was thinking that's so true, though.
It probably depends on the fifth grader.
Because school is so different nowadays.
Well, I ride the youth group bus. We have a bus that goes around town picking up kids to bring in the youth group, and I was riding a bus one day, and one of the girls riding the bus. I mean, it was a whole group of kids. This girl couldn't have been any older than like between 6 and 9 years old, and she tried telling me that I was dumb and that I was stupid. And the other kids start laughing, and I started laughing. I was like, you have no idea. So I basically went back to work, and I said to her, I go, all right, well, what's brachial plexopathy? Or
what is that?
what's lumbosacral radiculopathy? And she just kind of looks at me and she's like, I go, yeah, you're talking to a nurse. Chances are you're not smarter than I am. Just saying.
That's another thing. We'll get into that after this talk, but the generation, coming in below us, they think they know everything. They don't even want to listen to expertise of older people.
Well, I mean, we were like that when we were kids too. So, I mean...
Well, to a degree, but I mean, we didn't cause arguments with like older adults because of it. And
because of discipline.
Yes, exactly. Because of discipline.
We knew that if we talked back to our parents and told our parents they were a bunch of idiots, that we would get smacked. There's a video, I can't remember his name. I'll have a name for you at some point, but it's this Indian comedian, Russell. I don't remember his last name, but Russell Peters maybe. But he goes on this, one of his things that he does for stand-up is he basically, when he was younger, he says, white people, beat your kids.
Russell Brand, I think you're thinking.
No, that's I know who Russell Brand is. This is Russell Peters, I think.
Okay.
So he goes, white people, beat your kids. I'm gonna tell you why. Because all of us kids that get beat, black kids, Mexican kids, Indian kids, I mean, we're hanging around with white kids, and white kids don't get beat by their parents, and they tell us things that could potentially get us killed. And so, do you want that white kid to feel left out? And he goes on and he says how this white kid Ryan goes, he told me, I went over to Ryan's house one day, and granted, Russell Peters, it's not copyright, but he basically he says, you look it up, he says Ryan, you can't talk to your mom that way. And Ryan's like, I don't care, she's an effing idiot. And so he goes, dude, my dad will beat my ass if I say that to him. He goes, next time your dad goes to beat your ass, you tell him to F off. And he's like, and so I went home for the last time. And he goes, I went inside, and my dad's like, Razor, come in and do the dishes. And he goes, F you, Dad. And he flipped him off, and he's like, and then all of a sudden, just, what the hell did you just say to me? Do I look like Ryan's mom? Somebody gonna get hurt real bad. And that's like one of his comedy video skits, presented, but it's super hilarious. But yeah, I mean, when we were kids, I mean, we got our butts beat if we were disrespectful to our parents.
Oh yeah.
Now kids get sent to their room, or they get their technology taken away. And I'm completely against beating your children, but I'm not against physically disciplining their children, because there's a difference. There's a lot of people that think physical discipline is beating your kids, and I completely disagree.
I disagree as well.
I got my butt beat when I was a kid. My older brother got my butt beat when we were kids.
Yep,
and
we all did.
And it basically it taught you that if you screw up and you disrespect adults and authority, there's consequences to that. Whereas now the consequence is, you get sent to your room, and where you've got all your toys and everything that you can do by yourself.
All comes down to respect. Kids don't respect us.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, off topic.
First question, Dave.
Oh boy.
In the human body, what is the purpose of the, I don't even know how to say it. It's tympanic membrane.
I don't even know what that is.
TYMPANIC.
Oh, tympanic membrane.
Okay.
So the tympanic membrane, I believe, if I remember right, it's a membrane that is in your ear that when sound comes around you and it goes into your funnel, which is your ear, the tympanic membrane starts to vibrate. Every sound that comes into your ears, that tympanic membrane, it vibrates, and it somehow changes that sound from like a frequency or a vibration into a nerve response, and then from the tympanic membrane it goes through the ear, the rest of the ear goes into the brain, and then your brain is what translates that vibration, that sound, into cognitive thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. What was this answer?
Yeah, it's not time, like, it's tympanic membrane.
I'm glad I spelled it for you.
But I'll be honest, the only reason why I know that is because I'm a nurse. If I was anything but a nurse, I probably would have said the exact same thing that I just said. Like, I don't know what that is.
That's insane. Okay, if you were to add up the angles of a hexagon, what would the sun be?
I don't know. Because I know, hexagon is an object that has, 6 sides to it. But I don't know the angles, honestly.
720 degrees.
Interesting.
Question 3. Which element on the periodic table has the chemical symbol K?
Potassium.
Yes.
I wouldn't know that if I wasn't a nurse either.
I actually, I know that just because I know sodium, potassium, and I work with electrolytes and stuff like that. So I know that. So, but if I didn't do that stuff, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
What is the name of the largest artery in the human body?
The aortic.
Yes. Yep.
Again, I wouldn't know that if I wasn't a nurse.
These questions were generated by ChatGPT.
Was it really?
I asked it to give me. I asked it for you actually to give me 10 hard questions that a 5th grader would know.
That's funny.
So that's what it gave me. So I used it. What is the aorta valve? If people don't know.
The valve or the artery?
I'm talking about artery. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So the aorta is basically the number 1 artery that comes out of your left ventricle. It's so your heart's divided into 4 sections: the 2 top and the 2 lower. The 2 top halves are atrium. Yeah, the 2 top half are your atrium, the 2 lower half are your ventricles. Your aorta is what comes out of the top left part of your heart, that the heart squeezes all the blood out of the heart into the body. It's basically the pumping action that routes all of your blood to the rest of the body. So that's why the aorta has to be so large, because there's such a high volume of blood that has to feed the entire body. Now, as it comes out of the heart, throughout every part of your body, you get branches that break off from the aorta to feed all the different cells, all the different organs, all the different parts of your body. That's basically what the aorta is. It's what houses all the blood that initially comes out of the heart to feed the rest of the body with nutrient-rich blood.
Okay, I see. That's interesting.
Yeah.
How many total bones are in the adult human body?
Is it 128?
Not even close.
Or is it 200?
You're closer.
Yeah. 248?
No, way over.
No. 200 something.
206.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who wrote the novel War and Peace?
No idea.
Leo Tolstoy. Or Tolstoy. I'm pronouncing it wrong, probably. What type of rock is formed from cooling lava?
Lava rock?
Igneous rock.
Yeah.
Lava rock. That's good. In Roman numerals...
That's a 4th grader answer.
That is a 2nd grader answer, probably. In Roman numerals, what does the numeral D represent? I did not know this one.
Is it 75?
Nope. Way under.
1,000?
Under that.
500?
Yeah.
Oh.
I did not know that. Which planet in our solar system has the shortest day, with one rotation taking just about 10 hours?
Mercury?
Jupiter with a rotation period of about 10 hours.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And last question, what is the term for a word or phrase that reads the same backwards as forwards?
I know what you're referring to, but I don't know.
Like an example would be race car.
Yeah, or yeah, I don't remember.
A palindrome.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never learned that stuff in 5th grade that I remember.
You know, that's what everybody always says. And it's like, I don't know. Can we remember back that farther what we learned? Because I can barely remember back in high school.
I can remember math that I learned back in 5th grade and some of your English stuff, but that's about it.
Fractions and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
I'll tell you what, though. You take a 5th grader who learns that stuff, and then fast forward 30 years, I can guarantee you they're not going to be able to remember it either.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, age. So let's see.
Well, I mean, it's basic information.
Yeah.
Into the human brain.
If there's no reason
if you don't use it on a regular basis or a somewhat consistent basis, you forget it.
The brain's gonna toss it.
Yeah.
So let's see how you did. You got purpose of tympanic. You got that. Or no, you did get that. I'm not going to count that. You did 720 degrees. You missed that one. You got the aorta. Missed the bones. Missed Leo. Missed igneous. Missed 500. Did you get Jupiter?
No.
And then the last one you missed that. So you got a 30%, Dave.
Sweet. I don't care.
Not the lowest though. Yeah, Zach actually got the lowest score.
Oh, jeez.
20%, I think he got last night.
Well, like I said, the only reason why I got the medical or the health related questions is just because I'm a nurse, and that's it.
Yeah, but I mean, you brought up a good point though. I mean, like you don't remember this stuff like back then because you toss basically what you don't want to remember anymore,
or you have no reason to remember it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how is Dave doing nowadays?
Yeah, pretty fair.
What's changed in your life recently since the last time we talked last season?
The illness. That's the main thing.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's the main thing that really kind of rocked me. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah. Family all good?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we went out and visited my brother and his family. And one of the most hilarious things that my brother sent me was he sent me a message that he was with one of my nephews, Matthew, just in the last week. And I can't remember where they were, but they were on the patio of a restaurant where he took Matthew out to eat. And next to them in the drive-thru was, it was a car. It was loud, fast sounding car. And Matthew says to my brother, he goes, "Daddy, what's that? Why is that car so loud?" Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Well, son, that's a rice burner." So it's, like a foreign car that has the Euro pipe on it that, they're supposed to be super fast, but they don't sound like they go super fast. They sound like I don't know, something. But he goes, so why does it sound like, what does a rice burner mean? And he goes, well, it's a car for, guys who have small penises. And so Matthew goes, "Would you get a rice burner?" And he goes, "No, I'd never get a rice burner." And then Matthew goes, "Well, you must not have a small penis then." And he sent me that, and I died laughing. I was like, he did not say that.
How old is he?
He's 5.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, he said that. I'm like, he did not say that. I'm like, he's like, he totally did. I'm like, dude, the next 3 years are gonna be so much fun. You're either gonna laugh your butt off or you're gonna be totally embarrassed. It's great. Kids that age, it's hilarious because they're so curious and they have no filter.
No,
it's awesome.
My nephews are the same way.
Yeah.
It's horrible. I mean, my nephew will just like say them just out there stuff like, "What did you just say?"
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Like my nephew's been like, one of the things I always remember, we were walking outside and something happened. He was like, "What the hell happened?" Like my little 4-year-old nephew. Like I was like,
yep.
Where?
Oh, it's yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because like, and it makes you wonder sometimes, are these kids learning some of their language from TikTok or from their parents?
Dude, these kids, everything from TikTok.
Yeah, but some stuff from their parents too.
That brings up an interesting point too. TikTok, do you think TikTok is rewiring some people's brains too? Like
Yes.
not even talking about, children even. I'm talking more
oh, yeah,
adults.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You do. Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I've never investigated it, or I've never, really dug into it, but supposedly the Chinese version of TikTok shows very different things to children than the US version of TikTok.
What?
So supposedly in the Chinese version of TikTok, it's all informational stuff. Math, arithmetic, science, things that will make you smarter, right? Whereas the American version of TikTok is pushing things that drugs, alcohol, violence, destroying, hating America. America is the only country in the world where our kids are being taught to hate the country they live in.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's changed so much because when we were kids, we were told to respect, the flag, and people are kneeling down for the national anthem.
There's people in this country, there's Americans in this country that have been here their whole life that they will burn the American flag, even though it's illegal, because they think America is this, horrible racist country. And America has its drawbacks, like every other country. America has the things that it's done in the past that are not good. The things that we've done across the world that are not good. But at the same time, to completely, like I said before, to completely take for granted everything that you can and have, that you can do and you have in this country, it's mind-blowing to me. Like, this is the only country in the world where you can come here with nothing and you can build your own empire.
Yeah.
And yet
it's amazing.
And yet so many people, you have a lot of these kids that they're saying America is this horrible, hateful, racist place as they're going to Starbucks on their iPhone every day.
Getting their triple caramel latte.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, we live in such a bad place.
We live in such a horrible, oppressive place. While they're Instagramming on their iPhone or their tablet, America is such a horrible place, and I have nothing because this place is horrible. Yeah. As you're going to Starbucks every day on your $1,300 piece of technology. Yeah. It's mind blowing.
It is, and why do you think kids are like that?
Well, I think it's for a few reasons. The number one reason I think is because of technology, like we've talked about. Kids are being raised by technology that. You look at YouTube, you look at Facebook, you look at TikTok, you look at Instagram, the algorithms of those programs, of what gets pushed in front of you as you scroll through those programs, that's what's raising the children. That's what's, that's why I say, the Chinese version, from what I've heard, the Chinese version of TikTok is different than the American version. So different things, the algorithm is what determines what gets put in front of your face. And so what gets put in front of your face, if you see it enough, it starts to change you internally. It's a rabbit hole that I don't know if I could go down and not just lose my cool.
Dave, do you believe the Earth is flat?
No.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Thank you. I was really worried you were going to say yes.
No, I'm not a flat earther. I always love asking flat earthers this question. So if the Earth is flat, what happens when you get to the edge of it? Do you just kind of like fall off, or do you really quickly just flip to the bottom of it?
Well, they said there's a giant wall around it.
But what's on the other side of the wall?
They
don't know. They have no idea. They say, well, it's never been explored. I'm like, the other question I have for them.
Okay.
The perfect shape. And, this goes back to creation. The perfect shape of anything, to hold anything, is a sphere, a round ball. It's a sphere.
Why do you say that? Because I would say a square.
So the square, and this is just, the way I see it, I haven't done any digging into it.
Okay.
So a square, if you have the same amount, you can't have the same amount of pressure in a square. Because the corners, the sides, the top, the bottom, the pressure is going to be different. Think of it as if you have the same amount of pressure pushing on all the sides, because of the distance between the center of the square and the distance between the sides and the corners. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
because it's farther, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the pressure is going to be different. Whereas with a sphere, all of your pressure in the very middle of the sphere is equal on every single part of the sphere on the inside. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So that's why I can't explain it like scientists can, but the most perfect object to hold anything is a sphere, because the pressure gradient is the same on all sides, which is why planets can exist. And, and this is what all crazy to me too. I asked this of flat earthers. So if the Earth isn't flat, why aren't the planets not flat? Or why are the planets round? Why is the sun round? Why are the stars round? Because a sphere is the perfect object, the perfect shape to hold pressure, because the pressure is even on all sides.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me. But
Yeah, but they every single, and I don't know too many. I know like maybe 2 or 3 people that they believe the Earth is flat. They can't answer those questions.
Yeah, I know one that wants to answer that question right now, and they're probably saying that. But they don't even think the planets are outside the Earth. Like they think there's a dome. Basically, it's a dome.
Okay,
and
kind of like the Truman Show.
Yes, exactly. And then there's a light in the sky that shines down, and I don't know what they think of the moon.
And God is this, this person standing outside the box who's pushing buttons, watching us function.
Yeah, I mean,
the Truman Show.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, really. That's a popular thing going around right now. I don't know why, the flat Earth thing. It's more, and the reason that's coming out too is because of Christians, which I'm a Christian, but I believe the Earth is round. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are a Christian, and you believe the Earth is round.
Yeah.
And I had this. I talked to my. I'm not going to say who believes this. I don't want to put them out there, but I talked to them, and they were saying how out of all the people that I thought would believe the Earth is flat, Shawn, I thought you would because you're a Christian. I'm thinking, huh? So I was referencing things from the Bible, and they tried to bring up, there's a name for it. And I'm going to pull up the trusty handy Bible here now because. It's called a firmament.
Okay.
It's worded as Genesis 1:17 here. I had it here. And it does, I mean, I can see where they're coming from with this. I'm just curious on your take on this. Genesis 1:17, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide light from the darkness. And God said that it was good. And right here it says in 1:16, and God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. So it's I think the argument here that a lot of Christians that believe the earth is flat, they are thinking that this firmament is like, what that meant is like a firmament, land was placed, a dome was placed, heaven is outside of the dome, and that's what they're trying to believe here.
So my question would be, what's on the other side of the dome?
Heaven.
The other half of the dome.
They believe heaven is on the top and hell is on the bottom.
Gotcha.
So, and I don't know. They just.
So I guess my next question would be, how do you explain the concept? And I think I've talked to a couple people that they have an answer. Like, how do you explain the globe?
The globe. They don't believe the globe exists.
So does the Earth not rotate?
They believe it spins.
So how is it going to spin if it's not spherical?
Dave, you're
because if the Earth is a sphere,
yeah,
and the pressure is equal on all sides, that is the only way that the Earth would be able to withstand the pressure of that outward force of the Earth spinning. If it was any shape other than a sphere, it would create too much pressure on one side or on a certain spot, and everything would be wrecked. And that's just my take on it.
I agree completely. And there's another thing too called centrifugal force that would happen if the Earth. Right. I think of it this way. You're at the parade. You're not the parade. You're at the fair. Those rides that spin like. Yeah. And you strap in like this.
And basically the centrifugal force is what keeps you up against the pad.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's impossible. And and you try to bring up science with them. And here's what I want to specify with this.
Well, my disclaimer when it comes to that, and I've had people that get pretty fired up, flat earthers get pretty fired up.
They do.
Why is it so imperative for you to be able to prove your theory of the Earth being flat? What about your life gets better if you can convince somebody that where on the scale of what's necessary in life does that fall?
And I've asked them that same
exact
thing.
That's why I'm like, I'll have a discussion about it, but I'm not going to sit here and do a bunch of digging and do a bunch of research. And it's just, there's more important things in life.
Exactly. I said that same exact thing. And they said, because it proves they are lying to us.
Who's they?
Exactly. They think there's this.
Right. Now granted, you don't really have to prove that they are lying to us. That's pretty apparent.
Well, yeah.
That's why I've asked. I love asking people this question. And get off topic, but people.
Dave, the whole podcast is off topic.
I know, right? So I love asking people this question where I know so many people that are like, Trump is bad, Trump is horrible. And yeah, Trump's, earmuffs for your kids. Trump is a douchebag. Trump is an asshat. But I always love to ask, if Trump is so bad, he's done all these illegal things, especially most recently with all the indictments that came out. Why did it take, Trump hasn't been president for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Why are they only just now going after him? They've had 3 years to go after him. They had 2 years to go after him when the Democrats had control of the House, the Senate, and the Oval Office. Why did they not go after him then? It's because he's running for president again. And it's because they hate Trump so much that they're willing to believe whatever it is that they're told.
I say the term, sharks will always be sharks. Well, I think that's going to do it for this podcast, Dave. And I think this was a good season finale for the season. You're episode number 11. There's supposed to be 12 episodes this season, but I had one guy that was supposed to come on and talk about AI with me, artificial intelligence, and he kind of flaked out. So kind of had to cancel the episode because I couldn't find anybody on that. But hopefully, for season 3, I can find somebody, hopefully. And maybe AI would have killed us all off by season 3 anyway.
But honestly, when it comes to AI, technology is a great thing, and AI can be a great thing, but the problem is where they start giving AI the capability to learn nonstop, and then to essentially, like in the movies, for AI to become self-aware. Yeah. At that point, that's where you've basically screwed yourself.
What do you think about the AI taking over people's jobs?
It's a horrible idea. It can make your job easy. It can make the people who own the companies make their job easier, because you don't have to pay for people, and all you have to pay for is people to work on the AI in case the AI screws up.
Well, they'd have to pay a tax though too. Mm-hmm. I was just going to say they're going to have to put, because somehow these people are going to be able to get welfare that don't work anymore. They're going to...
Well, the welfare system's broken, but that's a whole nother topic of discussion.
Exactly. But I'm just saying, they can't just fire these people and not pay them anything. There's going to be something that... And so what's going to happen is these companies are going to be taxed more. They're going to have to pay more for taxes. Guess what's going to happen, though? They're going to shoot their prices through the roof to make everything back.
Well, it's the same...
Literally, a Big Mac will be $20.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with taxes in general. You look at... I'm sure you remember the big push from this whole slew of people that they were like, $15 an hour, we need a livable wage, $15 an hour, and none of them wanted to hear, what do you think's going to happen when all these workers start getting paid $15 an hour? Or when they were talking about taxing the rich, you really think all these big companies are just going to, out of the kindness of their heart, eat that cost? No, they're going to raise the cost of everything,
and that's going to kill everybody.
It's going to shoot it through the roof. And this is, it's a problem now. But the problem's going to get worse.
Oh yeah, I see this ending horrifically.
I was talking to Jenna the other day, and she knows a few teachers that teach at Bryan. And because what happened was, we went out walking on Saturday, and the place where we walk at, there was a box on one of the benches that said free on it. And there were a couple bags of potatoes, there were boxes of cereal, there were bags of pasta, there were all these different food items that were in there that just said free. And I was like, that's kind of weird. What's up with that? Yeah. And she said that there's people that will come to this place and they will just sit out free food for people to come and take, because from what she was told by, her friends that teach in Bryan, anywhere between 40 to 60% of middle school kids in Bryan's not a poor community.
No, it's not.
40 to 60% of kids in middle school, the meal they get at school is the only meal they get.
What?
That's
a huge percentage, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, Bryan it's not an extremely well-off area, but it's not a poor area either.
So people aren't feeding their kids?
It's the cost of living, the cost of bills, the cost of inflation. I'm like, well, then why is inflation still so stupid high?
Yeah.
Why is gas still $3.25 or $3.75 in some places in Ohio per gallon? You go out to the West Coast, you're looking at $6-7 a gallon.
Why do groceries cost me $130 right now, when a few years back they only cost me $75?
Yeah.
$75 is what I was usually paying a week, and now I'm paying about $130 every week.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Yeah, because the cost of everything went up, and the cost of wages did not. Now they want to say, well, just, increase the cost of wages. Well, you really think, again,
sharks will always be sharks.
Again, you really think all these companies that control the price of everything, that they're just going to, out of the kindness of their heart, say, well, we'll just eat that cost. No, they're going to raise the price of all their product with the cost of wages.
That's how economy has been for the long. That's how it's evolved over time. I mean, that's business economics right there.
Yep, and that's why, the way that it is in the cities right now, like criminals aren't even being prosecuted for theft if they steal less than a certain amount.
I've heard about that.
Yeah. So in Illinois and in California, cops cannot, like, they're being told, you do not go after somebody for theft unless they steal more than $1,000. So I mean, you can find Google.
That's insane.
Google it.
Who spends $1,000 anyway?
You can find videos all over the internet of people walking into Walgreens, 7-Eleven, what's the other one? Rite Aid. All these different stores where they literally just walk in with a trash bag. They fill their trash bag with a whole bunch of stuff, and then they just walk out. Nobody says anything. And the cops won't do anything. Sometimes people, they need something to complain about and to slight against. Otherwise,
complaining keeps people occupied.
Yeah,
that's what I say.
Well, and now with the way our country and our society is, and especially because of COVID, so many people, they don't know what to do with themselves. And they find the one thing that gives them, again, that dopamine hit, and then they latch onto it. And that becomes their life.
An identity.
Yeah. I was talking with Jenna a few months ago, and she was saying how some of the girls that she works with in Fort Wayne, they've been through some of these horrific, horrible relationships. And then after they get out of them, every relationship they get into afterwards is this horrible, horrific relationship. And it's almost like they're mentally trapped, even though they don't realize it.
We could talk a little bit about relationships.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that is, I had Lils Bauer 3 days ago on.
Oh, really?
That's
so cool.
That was the first rated R podcast. We got deep. You were talking about the relationships, bad relationships. People dating nowadays is just impossible. It's a totally different world. I mean, you're very grateful to have yourself a wife.
Technology,
and back to technology again.
Yeah, it's ruined. Honestly, I think more than anything else, technology has ruined relationships. It has created an environment of instant gratification where you don't have to really work for anything, and if you don't like what you have worked for, you can just swipe left and choose the next thing. Whereas you can't do that in relationships. And relationships. The number one factor of that make relationships work, any relationship, not just intimate partners, spouse, friends, relationships. Do you focus on yourself or do you focus on someone else? That's going to be whether your relationships are strong or not. Because if you focus on yourself, nobody wants to be around somebody who focuses on themselves all the time. And so when you have, two people that are focusing on themselves, trying to have a relationship, it's gonna fall apart. Every time. That's
fascinating to listen to. I mean, the last relationship, I put like almost all my energy into the other person to try to, I mean, I was so happy in that relationship. I literally was like, I don't want to lose this. I care for this person a lot. And, I cooked every night for her. I made, I made all these sacrifices, and it all still ended up in the shit show.
Right. Well, and honestly, I think there's something that happens to the mental psyche of a person. Like going back to the women that, I talked to Jenna about, some of her coworkers, they go through a bad relationship and then they get out of it. They get to another bad relationship and then get out of it. And after so many bad relationships, that is the life, that is the relationship style, that is the mindset that you now have ingrained into your brain. And if you do finally get into a relationship where everything is positive and there's the negative is completely outweighed by the positive, you don't know what to do with yourself until you finally just fall apart and you're like, I can't do this anymore.
That's literally my last relationship.
Yeah, like there's people out there, they literally function on poor relationships.
That's crazy.
Like when we were talking about the people who they have to have something to complain about.
Yeah.
Right. There are people that and one of the biggest dividers in the country is politics. Right. So you have people on either side of the aisle talking about politics that they are not content unless everyone around them is as miserable as they are. And I mean, it's narcissism.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me that if you really want a strong relationship with somebody, you have to focus on them and not yourself. The hard part is getting two people in a relationship that focus on the other person and not themselves. And it clicks,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
And it doesn't matter if it's male, female. There's people that I know, there's people that you know, that, have done that before, where like I put everything that I could into this relationship. I was getting nothing back. And that can be a slippery slope too. Because if you put all that you have into a relationship and you expect something in return, who are you really focusing on?
Well, it wasn't.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying for you.
Yeah, I know.
But you
I
see what I'm getting
saying.
at. There's people that do that.
Yes, for sure. They're expecting that good return.
Yeah, there's people that they say, I put all of this energy, all this time, energy, and effort into this relationship, and I'm not getting back what I feel I should be.
I get that.
And that's a horrible place to come from as well.
Yeah.
And so that's why relationships are so hard right now, because you have so many people that want to put everything into a relationship, but then they want the return.
Yeah. And
if you truly love somebody, you're going to put into them without expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if for example, like for the banquet, I've served on so many different banquet and awakening teams that I love the ministry, and I put as much as I can into that ministry. I don't expect anything in return. If I'm putting as much as I can into the kids in our youth group, or any youth group, or even just the kids in the gym, I don't expect anything in return. The wrong way to look at it is, and I had this conversation with one of the ladies at the gym, that she does work with youth as well. It's not, I don't know if it's ministry related or not, but she put a lot of work into a young teenage girl. And when she saw how this teenage girl grew up and some of the choices that she made, they weren't like horrible, life-changing. I mean, they're life-changing, but they weren't horrible choices. And she was appalled that she goes, I put so much time and energy and effort into this girl, and this is how she turned out. And I said to her, it's not up to us. Yeah. Like the energy that the effort that the time that you put into her, it's not up to you what she does with that. And you don't get to claim the positive or the negative of what happens of that. Yeah, a lot of it has something to do with your influence, but you can't do what you do. Like, I can't put all this time and effort into the kids in our youth group and then say I expect them to do X, Y, and Z because I put time into them. What they do with the impact, what anybody does with the impact that you leave on them, that's up to them. Like, for example, if you go through a horrible relationship and your person that you're in a relationship with, they end up committing suicide. So many people, they blame themselves, like, I should have done this, I should have done this. You cannot blame yourself for their choices. Parents is a similar boat, but it's not concrete. It's not set in stone. Like, you can, and it says in the Bible, teach your way, teach your kids in the way of the Lord, and they will follow it when they grow up. People make their choices. You can't blame yourself for their choices unless, I mean, like again, it's not black and white. It's not concrete. If you push somebody to the brink of suicide, own that a little bit. If you push somebody to, do drugs, do alcohol, do some horrible things, please own that.
Yeah, and it's pretty honest too. If you would know too if you did that. I mean,
some people would.
Yeah.
There's people that I've come across that if you were to sit them down and say, dude, the way you're treating this person is absolutely horrible, they justify it. It blows me away how the mind is so vastly different across humanity. You can't to an extent, you can't blame yourself for someone else's choices. Now, again, that's not set in stone. There's a gray area there. But
like with anything.
yeah, absolutely.
There's always that gray area.
And that's, I've had that discussion with several people.
Well, I think we covered around the basis today.
Yeah.
I think we took it from fitness to, all the way from relationships to flat earth to
flat earth. Hey, look, I'm a god. I'm holding the earth in my hand.
I mean, the world's crazy, Dave, and it just gets it gets crazier. That's where we're getting at here.
And honestly, I mean, usually what I tell people, like, look, focus on your relationships more than anything else. And like I said, for example, the other reason why I try to stay involved in politics, I want to know what's coming, and because eventually, at some point, if things don't go in a different direction, it's gonna get really bad. Yeah. And I don't want to be one of those people who's not prepared. And when you have all of these people that are saying, how did this happen? How did we get to this point? Easy. You weren't paying attention. And those of us that were trying to tell you, you brushed it off. So it's one of those things where, the best thing that I try to impress on other people is kind of like, going back to what it says in the Bible, what Jesus said, treat your neighbor as yourself. And I've had this discussion with people. Like, I'll sit down and have a conversation and disagree with people about all different sorts of things, but I refuse to try and insult them and name call them. I'm like, yeah, I might say that somebody, I might say, you're brainwashed, or you are being as gullible as they want you to be. But I refuse to just sit there and turn it into a name calling match, or just absolutely berating somebody, because
nothing good comes out of that.
Right. And there's no progress from having those kinds of discussions.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why when I started watching Vivek, is that the discussions that he has, I mean, he went on a CNN panel, he went on I think an MSNBC interview as well. And just the way that he presents his information while disagreeing with somebody and while being respectful about it, it's impressive. If you've never watched any of his videos, like, I mean, he's got his own YouTube channel. All he does is, for his YouTube channel, for the most part, is he just replays different interviews that he's done. So I mean, at some point, if you get a chance to listen to him speak, because like I said, it's impressive. The dude's super smart. But that's my big thing is, look, my life verse, so to speak, out of the Bible is Proverbs chapter 18, verse 7. It says, "A fool's mouth is his own destruction, and his lips are the snare to his soul." Basically, words matter. And the way that what you say is important, but also what's important is how you say it. If you can, there's always a way to get your point across without berating somebody or without attacking somebody. And, we're not going to move forward as a society until we can get to the point where we can disagree and still have a conversation about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there. Dave Florkowski, guys.
Don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's gold though. I mean, I love it. I love that. It's a powerful verse because the tongue is powerful.
Yeah.
And people forget how powerful it is oftentimes.
Yep. I remember when we were kids, they would say, "Sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me." And that's not accurate.
No, not accurate at all. Completely ass backwards there.
Yeah.
But thank you, Dave, for coming on today.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. I really hope the listeners got a lot out of that, because we covered everything from everything. But hope you guys enjoyed this season. Like I said, there might be another episode. You guys will find out. It'll be posted. But till next time, guys, till next season, stay strong and God bless.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Absolutely.